Hello, good evening, and welcome to Opposing Views right here on MX24 television. My name is Kwabna Chen Boati, and I'm thankful to you that today also you have taken time off to join us for this edition of the show. Today we want to talk about Fix the Country, and it's been a movement that has in the past, say, 3 to 4 months dominated a lot of headlines online, via print, on radio, and even on television. It has to do with an agenda by a number of citizens keen on seeing the country transform for the better. Now, it has come with all kinds of things. Of course, government has moved from one wing of the entire argument to several other wings, from a pushback to a rather reconciliatory mood to actually acting on some of the demands that were put across by conveners of the group and indeed several other citizens who joined the movement. You must not necessarily be part of the conveners to be able to express your views on the subject matter. And so for a lot of people, particularly some in the middle class, they saw it as a good enough opportunity to share their views on recent happenings in the country. If you do recall, there was a similar thing some time back. I think that was in 2015 or so. The Dumsor Must Stop Vigil. On the back of that, we had organizations such as Occupy Ghana. It started off as Occupy Flagstaff House, and we got Occupy Ghana out of it and several others. A lot of people have suggested that, well, that single action by those group of middle class persons was highly influential in determining who won the 2016 general elections, because they had highlighted some challenges that the then president, John Dramani Mahama, was not perhaps dealing with the best possible way in their view. And so this also, as many have suggested, has pushed the government to deal with a number of the concerns, subsequent to the demands that had been put across by the gentlemen and ladies from the Fix the Country movement. We had a high-powered government delegation meet up with the conveners and speak to them on a number of things. And so if you do recall, I think the National Security Minister, for instance, Albert Kandapaa at the time, spoke to them. He was there with the Information Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister and a few other ministers. Very, very high-powered delegation. And so they took the concerns of these people rather seriously. Along the line, the police had secured an injunction, and so the protest that these people wanted to embark on was, should I say, postponed. Was postponed for several weeks. And then somewhere in August, that's the early part of August, I think it was on August 4, if my memory serves me right, that demonstration happened. And the issues were drummed home some more. Now listen, fuel prices are high. We cannot even pay rents. Standard of living is so high. The joblessness or unemployment is so high. And so government, you must fix this. On the back of this, the Ministry of Information has liaised with a number of ministries to share with Ghanaians what it is that these various ministries are doing as far as the concerns raised by the conveners and the several supporters of this are concerned. Now, here's the catch. A few moments ago, we did post an artwork of what we were to discuss today on the show on the MX24 handle, on my personal handle as well, at the KKBGH, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at the KKBGH. We did that there. And then on all the handles of the MX24 platforms. And there's been quite a lot of commentary on that to suggest that the topic we had put up there was not a topic that we should be discussing. And so let me share with you the topic that was put up on that page. And for those of you who may actually, in fact, let me get the producer to put the flyer on the screen for you, for those of you who may not have seen it. But the topic up for discussion today is, does the Fix the Country agenda lack focus? Does the Fix the Country agenda lack focus? That's the question that we asked. And if you have followed Opposing Views for some time now, you do realize that a lot of the things we put out are rather debatable. And so when the topic is suggested and deliberated upon by a team of highly professional producers and anchors, discussed in the newsroom and the like, and it's brought to the fore, you can be sure that it is without malice. It is being put across, this very topic is what we've chosen to discuss, because if you hear the communication from a lot of people, from government officials, from the ordinary people who end up, to be very honest with you, a number of people support the Fix the Country movement. Of course, not all of them have come out to campaign or to demonstrate like others have, but several people have showed support for this, myself included. Because if it gets better for everybody, not just for a select few. And so we are all very keen on seeing a better Ghana. And so when a topic such as that is posted and it is in the view of some persons as disrespectful, I would rather say it's unfortunate. Does the Fix the Country agenda lack focus? That's what we put up there. So you can see it on your screen now. And it comes with the pictures of the guests we had actually booked to speak to on the particular subject matter today. Now, for some who have engaged with me on my personal Facebook wall, some in my inbox and the like, they have suggested quite a lot of things, and I can understand that if it comes across as in a certain way, that's okay. Once it's out there, it's open to interpretation. But here's the thing. If you ask for, let's say you have a son who says, "Daddy or Mommy, I want an aeroplane when I get the first position in class." Okay. And he does get the first position in class, and you do give him an aeroplane, a toy one, of course. And then 10 minutes later, he comes back to you and says, "Mommy, I rather want a boat. I want a boat." And then you say, "Okay, you were first. I'll give you the boat." So you give him the boat. And then 20 minutes down the line, he says, "Mommy, I want mushrooms rather. Mushrooms, not an aeroplane or a boat." And you give him mushrooms. And he comes back and says, "Mommy, please, this time round, I want a bottle of what? Guinness Smooth." Yeah. Really. For a child, it could be pardoned, of course. For adults such as ourselves, what we say is that you are shifting the goalposts, because it seems then to be the case that you do not know exactly what you want. Because you ask for one thing, you are giving responses or answers, and then you say, no, this is not what we're talking about. We are talking about this. And they are giving further responses. And then, so that has been the argument by a lot of people in government, that we don't even know what the people want anymore. Because when they ask for this and we tell them what this is, how far we have come as far as this is concerned, then it becomes a problem. But I'm saying this because my attention has been drawn to a post by one of the guests, and I think I'll put up his commentary on this and share some of his views and those of people who perhaps are in support of whatever he has shared. And so if that is available, kindly put it up on the screen so we can share with our colleagues, our audience who are watching us and are discerning enough to read in between the lines. Like I keep saying, listen, this is not a platform to push an agenda. And everybody who has followed this show and has followed my work would know that we do not sit here to push agenda at all. It has never happened. It will never happen. It's rather unfortunate when some of these things come up. But of course, in the interest of the public and in the interest of everyone else, we will do what we have to do with or without the guests who described some of the things as what? Crap? Well, kindly put that up on the screen so we can take viewers through. Again, let me let you know that right here, okay, there's quite a lot I'm getting even on Facebook right now. Quite a lot of, okay, there you go. A lot of commentary on there. I think you can see on your right, you can see a number of comments that have come in now. I will just read a few things on the page of, is it Baka? I think it's Baka, right? I will get that briefly for you, and then we can delve into the conversation, devoid of all the sentiments. Again, varied views are welcome, as we always say. The name of the show is Opposing Views. You don't have to agree with me, and I don't have to agree with you, right? Let's all come with our varied views, discuss them, come with your arguments. Let somebody else come with a counter argument. Let the best argument win. It's not about, hey, you have insulted me. No, we don't insult people on this platform, not on this station. No, I have never come across that here at MX24 since we started operating. No, I have never seen that. We don't do that. We are very professional people. And so when such comments come, they are very unfortunate. So the comments here, I'll just read a few of them. So this is what Baka put up, and Baka here is Mausi Oliver Baka Vomao. This is what he put up on his Facebook page. He says, Neho, you call me to tell me you are inviting me to join a discussion on the constitution and I'll call for a new constitution. I ask, who will be the hosts and who the other guests will be? You said one lecturer called Justice Abdullahi. I say yes. Come to find out, you advertise this as, does the fix the country agenda lack focus? What load of crap. Please tell the station owner that I won't show up. Shalom. Baka, we hear your views loud and clear. And it's okay if you do not want to show up on the platform as big as this. Mind you, we are targeted at the youth and the young at heart. And so, hey, you are free to join the discussion or not. You were invited to be a part of the panel. If you feel strongly that you cannot be a part of it, that's okay. The show will go on, and the show must go on. My name is Kwabena Chencheni Boating. We'll delve into the issues right after these messages. Stay with us.
The news that matters the most is the news that hits closest to home. Politics, business, lifestyle, entertainment, whatever. Once it breaks, we are there.
If it touches you, your family, your community, or your safety, we've got it covered.
You need to know what is happening in and around Ghana and on the international scene.
This is MX24 News.
All right, so many thanks for staying with us. Like I said, this is MX24 Television, and this is Opposing Views. Sorry the intro took a little longer than it usually does, but sometimes when these things come up, we have to address them, and then we can move on to other more relevant things that are of interest to you and I. And so the issue up for discussion has to do with Fix the Country. And listen, the concerns being raised by people in this group are very legitimate concerns. No one is disputing that. The concern, however, has been that they continue to shift the goalposts. And so for a number of persons, in fact, let me start by reading this for you. If you take a look at this, oh, by the way, some of our guests have joined us, and they don't see this program as crap. And so let me now welcome Dr. Kobe Mensah. He's a lecturer and political marketing expert at the University of Ghana Business School. He's joined us. Justice Abdullahi will be joining us in a short while. He's a private legal practitioner, a law lecturer at the University for Professional Studies here in Accra. We'll have a few others join us in a short while. But gentlemen, good evening, and many thanks for joining us right here on Opposing Views. Okay.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Great. So there's a story I heard from graphic.com.gh, which talks about the Fix the Country protest, which happened sometime in August. I think it was the 4th of August. Now, this is what it says. I just want to read two paragraphs for you, and then I use that to be the basis upon which I ask my first question of Dr. Kobi Mensah. Now, it says, the much talked about protest, Fix the Country, came off yesterday with hundreds of Ghanaians taking to some streets of Accra to demand accountability, good governance, and better living conditions from the government. The demonstrators, made up mainly of the youth and social media activists, held placards with inscriptions, including, "We deserve better too, fix the country. We are suffering, we need jobs. Young people cannot pay rent, fix the country. Reduce fuel prices and gas, reduce fuel and gas prices, and where are the 88 hospitals, Nanado," among many others, right? So, two paragraphs from that very story. Now, if you highlight the things that were iterated in the opening two paragraphs of the statement, you see issues of employment. You see issues of rent. Now, when it comes to issues of rent, you know it goes to the housing ministry. Fuel prices, that's the general living conditions of the people, the standard of living, how perhaps it's too high and remuneration too low. And then it also talks about where the 88 hospitals are. And then that will necessarily fall into the issue of the Agenda 111, because government last week launched that very project and suggested that, well, a lot more was going to happen. No more 88. We're actually going to have 101 hospitals and a few other specialized facilities, all on health. And we even had a show on it on Tuesday right here on this platform. So it's good. And so, if you recall, the Information Ministry held a press briefing and had the housing minister, forgotten his name, Yasen Subuachi, yes, had him come in there to outline a few things that the government was doing. Same for the finance minister. Same for even the Agenda 111 and a few other things. And now we are hearing that, well, the call is for a total overhaul of the Constitution. Doc, let me ask this question. Is it out of place for anyone to suggest perhaps that the movement may lack focus? Because it's like you're asking so many things, you are not very specific on what it is you want. Is it out of place for anyone to ask this question?
Right, thanks for having me, and
Right.
thanks for the question. Well, I do not think that is out of place. Perhaps we can actually argue the dimensions of the request. Mind you, Fix the Country is not a static movement per what we have actually seen over the period. You realize that it started off with questions about basic, what do you call development issues. Obviously, we had Kaka when the military or the police military actually stormed Ejura, and the Kaka issue was picked up.
Right.
In addition, subsequently, we've had Article 71 issues in terms of pay gaps, in terms of benefit. Movement that is very dynamic, that is very agile. As in, when issues happen, they pick it up.
Okay.
So for them to go to the constitution level, I don't think that it is out of place. Perhaps they actually finding a connection between what is happening in the country and the constitution. I would rather say that perhaps the demand is too ambitious. Why? Because it takes a lot of energy, a lot of resources in changing constitution. And so perhaps demanding a new constitution would be ambitious, but practically they could actually ask the leaders of the country to go back to the constitutional review, which most of us actually participated in. I remember I was with a youth group who that was actually appointed by some development agencies to help solicit for ideas, opinions from Ghanaians, and we toured parts of the country, and we submitted our report. And quite rightly, most other, sections of society had done the same. So perhaps a call to that constitution review, which former President Atta Mills actually set up, would be a good starting point. But to say that you need an entirely new constitution, I think that's over the stretch. Yeah.
Okay. So, if I hear you correctly, then perhaps the targets may have been wrong from the beginning, to have targeted issues which may be a result of the current constitution, the frame and setup of the constitution. Then that may become a problem. If you are looking at the effect of something and not really the root cause of it, then you may be targeting wrongly, and maybe perhaps they are now coming to the realization that, well, the bigger problem is the constitution. Perhaps once we fix that, then maybe all of these things can be checked. Would that be far-fetched?
No, I disagree. I do not think that they had wrong targeting. I mean, don't forget, this is a movement, or a set of actions that have actually come about as a result of disappointment. And I mean, we have actually done a report and a research, and that was actually published quite recently, 2021, and we were actually looking at the influence of social media on youth participation in politics, the knowledge and the efficacy of their political knowledge or political participation. And we can see quite rightly a very positive relationship. So you realize that quite a lot of information, including political parties' own information, put across on social media, and that has actually given quite a lot of young people a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and they're becoming much more emboldened. In that sense, as and when issues happen, they will pick it up. So perhaps at a point, when the movement started, it might have started as a demand, and quite rightly, of basic development issues.
Right.
Certainly, it will roll up to other issues which they are picking up. So it would not be a wrong target at all. It's just a matter of dynamism. And if you look at how, not institutions, but groups like that have actually been formed, not only in Ghana, but in Nigeria, but in Europe and in Americas, etc., you realize that these groups aren't static. They aren't dogmatic groups. They are very dynamic, very agile. They pick up issues as and when it happens. So I wouldn't say there was wrong targeting.
Okay.
I think that the issues are becoming relevant, and as they become relevant, they pick it up.
Okay. When you hear the pushback from, say, government and some of its communicators, particularly on the basis of the supposed flip-flop nature of the group. Of course, you've explained to us perhaps why that may be the case, because they are rather adaptive to societal changes and the like. And so if things come up and they are relevant and they are things that require government attention, they would, of course, bring it to the fore. But these communicators would rationalize this to suggest that there has been a lot of politicization or infiltration by politicians as far as all of these things are concerned, for which reason a number of them have pushed back rather strongly and suggested that no, this agenda actually may be an anti-government agenda and not necessarily a fix the country agenda. Do you blame them for such pushback?
Well, of course, that's what governments do. I mean, you would be surprised, or it would be news if government doesn't react in that manner. But of course, I do not understand why would anybody say that this is politicized. Of course, it's a politicized matter. These are not cultural issues. These are political issues. Perhaps you want to say partisan. Yes, that's a different conversation. But is it political? It is political because it affects our livelihood, etc. These aren't cultural issues or religious issues. These are political matters. And you would expect that people with political interest would also have interest in it, much as ordinary citizens would have interest in it. So I do not see actually the angle of defining it as politicized. Certainly it is political.
Interesting. Right. Look, thank you. I'd like you to hold on briefly for me. I'll bring in a few others to join in our conversation in a short while. Yabobian Samoa is the Director of Communications for the Ghanaian New Patriotic party. He's one of the people who have been trying so hard to defend the government when it comes to some of these issues. Again, mind you, the concerns raised by the conveners of the group and several others who have raised issues with the current nature or the current state of certain things in the country, they are very legitimate. Listen, if they are asking for improved health care, who wouldn't want that? Everybody will want that. Let's hear from you now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Council, so let's ask this. Okay, I think we may have lost Yabobi and someone on the line there. We'll reconnect with him in a short while and then have him share the views of the party. Mind you, the party is different from the government, but the party is in power anyway, except that the party is not the government. And so we'll hear the views of Yabobi and Samoa, because a number of the commentary we've heard from party communicators, we can say he's behind it because he runs the party communications bureau. So we'll hear from him as far as these things are concerned, and then we'll get some views on it. Again, on the issue of the constitutional changes or reforms, we'll hear from Justice Abdullahi. He's a law lecturer with the University for Professional Studies here in Accra, and he'll take us through the processes we may have to go through if we are really targeting the complete overhaul of the Constitution, and how soon we can get that solved so that we can all have some respite, you know. Okay, Yabobi Samoa is back on the line. Senior, yes sir, good evening. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, my brother.
Let me ask this though. Some say your party, you've been very, 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 should I say, unapologetic of how you've governed the country, to the extent that when people say that fix the country, you ask them, fix what? Is it that we are in paradise? Are we in heaven?
That's your question, right? Whether
Yes.
we're in heaven or not.
Exactly.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show.
Right.
I'm afraid we are not in heaven. First of all, nobody even knows the form and nature of heaven. And that's why we can't go for the government. Am I right?
Yeah, sorry, if you could speak up a bit for me.
I'm saying that, first of all, nobody really knows the shape of heaven.
Right.
And that is why we like to thank God for little mercy. And Ghana has had quite a few little mercies. We've had the mercy of political stability, and political stability in a democratic environment, who underestimates the vibrancy of it, particularly when it's backed by technology. So sometimes when people see certain innovative issues of growth as failure on the part of the incumbent, and that is innocent. That's what it is. Somebody may be unapologetic. No, not that we are unapologetic, but we are a work in progress. And sometimes, that is known in certain ways that you have done wrongly.
Right.
But 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, governments and its tools were entirely different in this country. Governance, even from the start of the Fourth Republic, the flavor of governance has changed, particularly in Akufo-Addo's time, where technology has all but taken over the space. You have social media where individuals can form political parties on their phone, develop political platforms, and throw bombs here and there with no conscience whatsoever. You can't insult them. You can't teach them. They say what they like, do what they like. You are to tolerate it and work out. Even as outlandish statements are influencing minds against the future, what we have is objectivity. But at the end of the day, the voter also has to depend on something. And what is that? The format. This is an objective democracy. In 4 years, every 4 years, the voter is supposed to decide who to vote for. And on what should the basis of that vote be? Emotion, propaganda, lies, and should it a format? And that means that you are looking at the incumbent government in the freedom of modern challenges within the context modern tools of democracy, which are very open, which are extremely transparent, almost like that house, Now, to run governance is like a glass house. Even as you are taking the decisions, people are sitting in touch with you by WhatsApp, by whatever electronic means. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. But the point is this, though. The point is this.
Yeah, I want to conclude on whether
okay.
we are in heaven or not. We are working. We are not in heaven. We believe that, given the constraints that we have, we are being as transparent as possible. We are being as open to suggestion, public suggestion as possible. We are trying our best to define the most urgent public will at any point in time, and we have to work within the constraints, the superior law that we have, which is the Constitution.
Right.
And that's the guide for all of us.
Okay.
I will be talking about constitutional reform.
Yes. Yes, we'll come to that in a short while, though. But the question is this, some of the issues they raise, they say they are teething issues. They are issues that have bedeviled us for so long, and that perhaps should not be the
You
case.
mean fix Ghana?
Yes, fix the country.
No, I'm not actually responding to them with some saying. As for fix the country, I have a very firm opinion of it. I don't think they want to bring the system down because we've seen different kinds of governments before. And revolutionary approach don't work. You can never overturn a governance system by force and then whatever you install functions perfectly and meet all your needs. It doesn't happen. So I don't expect fix the country convenience to be assuming that there's going to be a sudden change of government. It's not feasible. Seen it all before. It doesn't work. Change it, and you go into a serious period of turmoil. And that period, often than not, you may never be able to come out of it and recover enough to restore yourself to where you were before. So I don't think fix the country wants to damage the governance system. And yes, I agree that all the things they are talking about are matters that have been outstanding for several years. And that is why we have been experimenting with government, and that is why we, the NPP, believe that the way we are working, our vision, our plan, is that we can meet those aspirations. But we need time. We need time. There's no magic one. We need time. So we are agreeing with the country.
But sorry, when you say this, I get the feeling you are in support of what they say. But just last week, you held a press conference and suggested that former President John Dramani Mahama is perhaps the one creating a false impression of hardship in the country, and that there's no hardship in the country. So reconciling that. Go ahead.
I didn't mention fix the country in my press conference.
No, but you had suggested that the impression being created that there's hardship in the country. Sorry, I'm coming.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm coming, Bobby. Bobby, hold on briefly. I'm saying, what you had mentioned at the press conference suggested that someone had painted the impression that there's hardship in the country.
You had suggested that Joy FM headline. That's why I'm telling you that take your time and let me explain. I had the press conference.
Go ahead, explain. Let's hear you.
You are approaching it from the Joy FM headline.
Don't worry, let's hear you.
About being said that the country is not hard and that your mama is the
Don't worry, we have those footages as well, but that's fine. Let's hear the explanation. Yeah.
First of all, I wasn't addressing fix the country. I was talking about Agenda 111 and some things John Mahama has said. I wasn't talking about fix the country. So unless John Mahama is synonymous with fix the country and he has denied it, then clearly this is about...
No, the point is very simple. Some of the concerns raised by the Fix the Country protesters are comments or questions that have been raised by several people, including myself, including John Mahama, including several others.
Can we accept that? Can we accept that I wasn't addressing Fix the Country in my press conference? I never mentioned...
I'm not talking about what you have said about Fix the Country. I'm talking about...
You said it.
I'm talking about...
Yeah. And then you raised your government's name immediately in connection with the problems of the country. And I'm saying that
the problems highlighted by the movement include some of the problems that people talk about on a daily basis, some of which have been re-echoed by John Dramani Mahama. Then you suggest that sorry, I'm coming. Sorry, let me land. Then you suggest that John Mahama is suggesting...
You call me and then you tell me it's an argument with you.
It's not an argument. No, I'm only trying to reconcile that which you are saying now vis-a-vis that which you said then. That's all I'm trying to reconcile.
Reconcile what? I'm listening to you. Tell me.
Again.
You said you're trying.
again,
what?
that's what I'm saying. That what was said at the press conference, I suggested that things may not be as difficult as perhaps John Dramani Mahama is making it seem.
So will you let
But
me
my
answer it
point
now?
is this. My point is this. He's
That's
not
what
the
I'm
only
trying to
one.
answer, and you keep interrupting me. Will you let me speak now?
Let's
Because
hear
you
you.
called me to speak on your network. Will you let me speak?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
Very good. To say that in my press conference, I didn't once mention 50 countries.
Agreed.
Secondly, in my press conference, I said that many people have voted and were still not sure about whether or not they were making it. And I said, even when expectations are met only partially from the democratic process, then you feel very hard done by. And in that state of mind, listen to me carefully, in that state of mind, when the NDC comes looking around your ears, the concocted process, Ghana is high, you too tempted to fall for, to believe in them. But they don't offer you any solution. That is my word. That is what I said in my speech. Did I say Ghana is so beautiful, Ghana is heavenly, that the NDC are fighting against me? I said, on the contrary, that there are many people who have voted that still believe they haven't benefited from their vote. In my speech. And it is recorded everywhere. Then I went on to say that yes, even those who have something that they believe is not sufficient for their purpose or their circumstance feel worse because their expectations have not been fully met. But we, the NPP, are working towards those expectations. So it is tempting when you're in that state of mind that when the NBC comes knocking on your ears, singing a song of hardship bully without solutions, you may feel tempted to believe. That is what I said. Nowhere did I take this country. Nowhere in this did I say Ghana PP was heaven. Nowhere did I say Ghana is difficult. Of course, we are all working towards resolving the issues that lie ahead of us. We should also recognize the environment we are in. We are in COVID economy. For those who are beginning to say that COVID is an excuse, let's be careful.
Yeah, quick one. Let me also introduce that Justice Abdullahi, a private legal practitioner and law lecturer at the University for Professional Studies Accra, has also joined in the conversation. I'll be interacting with him shortly after Yabobian Samoa lands. But yeah, go ahead, please. You can wrap up now.
So I assume that I'm going to do my bit and then move on.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, that's the agreement.
What was I saying about?
Yes, you were suggesting that perhaps on the back of COVID and the like,
yes, exactly.
people should be a bit more.
Let us sit back, analyze the COVID economy in the short to medium term. When the entire world trade crashes within a short period, it's a system. And the system crashes within a short period where worldwide trade is retarded in excess of 9%, 9.6% within a short period. And GDP worldwide contracts by 3.3% within a very short period. The shock is immediate and the recovery is lingering. The recovery will last into the medium to long term. The shock is immediate. It is short term, you will feel the pinch. So in this case, from 2019 to 2020, felt the direct pinch of the COVID health crisis in the economy and in our social sphere. In the economy, we couldn't go to work. We simply couldn't go to work. So we're not earning money. And if we're not earning money, we're spending money. How are we spending money? On essential services, we have to spend money on electricity. We have to spend money on water. We have to spend money on food. You see, we have to spend money on health services that will keep us safe and COVID is over.
Right.
And all that was being spent without revenue because we're not working. And this is throughout the world. Now, gradually, COVID seems to be going. Gradually, we are getting back to work. But even that, it is patchy. Because new variants are coming up all the time. Look at the resident care of Delta and the scramble to go back to some stability beyond Delta. Yes. So, the COVID economy is still there. We are struggling to get out of it because further expansion involves social contact. That social contact is the danger of spreading the virus. So the social activities that bring in money, 2 weeks. The hotels are not working. Clubs are not working. The entertainment transport is shut up. So now, with Delta coming back and the economy picking up gradually, you realize that we are not back to where people are working 100%. The world is revolving and we are achieving a normal. We are still in a new normal, which is desperate. Look at imports.
Okay.
Look at imports in terms of the economy. No, one last point. Now, a container which used to cost $10,000 to ship material in costs between $12,000 to $14,000. That doesn't represent an increase in import tax, but it represents a significant pass-on effect on the prices of the stuff that is carried in that container. And in Ghana, we import almost everything. So we will transfer this COVID-related inflationary hike in price due to the transport situation into the standing economy directly. Directly.
All right.
You understand?
Okay, so it's understandable. So essentially, it is not the case that government is deliberately making things difficult for people.
And the restrictions on congregation of any kind are all economic situations that are pushing our people in the services sector.
Okay,
so we
agreed.
Need to move ahead.
So agreed. So there's consensus at least that we all admit we are not there yet. Except that what you are communicating to the citizenry is that your party, which is the government in power, is doing all it can, even amid the challenges that exist currently, to mitigate the impact of some of these things on the citizenry, correct?
Super.
Okay, fantastic. They also make reference to something, the Constitution. Now, they say the nature of the Constitution is perhaps the reason why there are so many rippling effects, which, to an extent, accounting for perhaps issues of unemployment, issues of this, issues of that, Article 71. There are so many concerns. They are asking for perhaps a total overhaul of it. Is that something you'd go as far as perhaps endorsing? Or maybe you would only look at a possible review of the document?
I think, for me, the best approach is to adopt constitutional reform, is to continue to advocate their position and demonstrate the value of those positions.
Right.
Constitutional reform is not new. We are in the Fourth Republic, so it means we've had several constitutions. We've transcended several styles of government, authoritarianism in the one-party state, military conduct. We've experienced the West, revolutionary, and we've experienced democracy.
Right.
So our Fourth Republic, in fact, 3 republics before. Now the Fourth Republic under the 1992 Constitution is the one that has endured the longest and the most. It's Excellency Ghana just want to describe it as a people would have, because that also provided us with some consistency in groups and other indices. We now have a record of governance that we've done. So change.
Right.
We have to I have been in the anti-change CSO sector. I them involved in anti-corruption are too many they clash, and that they should be rationalized. It will need constitutional reform.
Oh, I think we may have lost Yabobia somewhere there. But he was wrapping up on the point about whether or not the country should consider at this point a complete overhaul of the Constitution, or maybe some generic modifications to some of the things in there. We'll hear from Justice Abdullah. He's going to take us through quite a lot, particularly as regards a possible overhaul of the Constitution and maybe the time frame that may even require, and then just oppose that with the demand by the Fix the Country movement, and whether or not it's a realistic one at this particular point in time. But let me just take concluding remarks from Dr. Kobi Mensah, who is leaving us now, but we'll hear from him now. Doc, you've heard a lot of comments by the NPP's Director of Communications, Yabo Abiyan Samoa. Legitimate points, you say?
Well, most of it I didn't hear because there was a feedback from justices. I'm not sure whether you guys are not monitoring. You can please ask him to mute his mic, because I can't hear anything.
Right, that's fine, that's fine. Okay.
But what I wanted to say is that from Boabian Samuel's submission, especially towards the latter part of it, obviously there are issues that are not COVID related. The issues about, some irregularities in terms of contracts. For example, the airport COVID collection, for example.
Right.
That is not as a result of COVID issues. There are issues about free SHS, or there are issues about education.
Education, yeah.
That people have complained.
Right.
Certainly is not COVID related. There are quite a number of other issues that are not, attributable to COVID economy, but lack of, action from government. So you couldn't lump everything together to say that they are as a result of COVID economy. Of course, we can appreciate that most economies are under stress because of the COVID, but there are other issues that we think that government hadn't actually taken, measures as appropriately as everybody expected, to dealing with that. So these are some of the issues that people think that, the government hadn't actually haven't been up to scratch, based on what their own promises are. But because there are other issues, so anyway.
I see. Okay, Doc, thank you. We've taken note of them. Once we're able to bring back Yawabi and someone on the line, maybe we'll ask them those ones or perhaps get some comments from him. Sincere apologies to Justice Abdullahi for keeping you on a little longer than actually highlighted. Also, Doc, thank you so much for joining us, and sincere apologies for holding you a little longer than you would ordinarily have loved to stay with us for. Thank you. Thank you for your time on the show today. Let's hear from Justice Abdullahi. Counsel, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Counsel, so this whole issue about a constitutional review, whether it's a partial review, a total overhaul, or whatever, what? The state or in connection with any. I think there's a lecture going on somewhere. We may have to hold on, hold on to that. Justice Abdullahi may be in a conversation.
Sorry,
with someone.
I'm sorry. I'm ready for you.
Oh, you're ready now. Okay, fantastic. Right. Thank you. I thought for once I was in a class. I said, "Oh, I need to pay attention." Okay. So, so let's talk about the possible review of the Constitution now. Whether it's a partial one, a thorough one, a complete overhaul, or the like, as is being demanded by Fix the Country movement. How realistic is it, and within which time frame are we even likely to see something of the sort happen?
How realistic? It is indeed realistic for the Constitution to be amended. That's a technical word. Whether it's a complete overhaul, i.e., goes extensive beyond just amending few provisions here and there, would largely be determined by all of us put together.
Right.
But I do think that the nation is at that point where we are almost at the dam nationwide, conclusively on the need in modifying our constitution.
Right.
It looks like there is a non-partisan consensus on this issue.
Right.
And indeed, there appears to be consensus also on specific provisions that require amendment. And so, and we deduce that from, I believe, the 2008 elections, where almost all the political parties that participated in the the presidential debate, were all in conclusive agreement.
Okay, so you are not in support of a complete overhaul of the Constitution?
Well, what amounts to complete would be determined by the volume of what needs to be amended. But I think from that day, 2008, when we all agreed on the constitutional amendment, I think it was extensive enough, but not a complete overhaul.
Right.
But there appear to be quite, and if you read the Constitutional Review Commission's report, there appears to be quite a number of provisions that require amendments.
And that's the thing.
Not to call it a complete
and that's the thing. A number of them need a bit of attention, and it's been 13 years.
Absolutely.
13 years. We still haven't seen much of a change as far as.
Yes, it's not just a number. It's not just a number of years. It also includes the amount of money that was spent on just the review alone.
Okay.
I think at the time the amount that was thrown into the air was around 100 million euros.
That's quite a lot.
That's today maybe 700 million Ghana cedis. That's how much was spent. just the review, the commission and its activities. That excludes everything else outside of that. And so that, but if you read the report, it's quite exhaustive. They did a thorough work, and I think maybe it did require the amount that was spent. I think there's value for money considering the amount of work.
But that's the thing. We've produced such fine documents, and they are just there gathering dust. We have people who are hungry as of now. Students have to raise huge sums of money just so they can pay rent when they are to do their national service. They are done with their service, they don't even have jobs. They have to stay home for God knows how long, go and look for somebody to pay a bribe to. The ladies are falling victim to one person or the other. All kinds of things. And some are saying all of these challenges are as a result of the nature of the Constitution. And if we've spent so much money and so much time on a review document, and as of now we still haven't done much with it, then what's the point? We have to fix the country, don't we?
I think we have to blame our two giant political parties for the mess we find ourselves in today. And I say so because right after the exit of Professor Mills, we still had the NDC as a political party in office, with the vice president of the then Professor Mills as the sitting president.
Right.
And it's suffice to say that they did absolutely nothing about the amendment process. The amendment that we envisaged would have taken us about a year or two, which could have been completed within the period of the Mahama administration. But absolutely no step was taken regarding that, even though there was an initial consensus in 2008 for this, which is why when the amount was spent and all the euphoria that followed the possible amendment were embraced by all and sundry. Unfortunately, when the NPP government also came into office, we are in their 5th year, and they have demonstrated their unwillingness to even pursue anything close to the amendment. If you saw anything that was closer to a step being taken, it was in respect of the elections of the district assemblies that the president initially had, because the president possibly
it was a campaign promise,
wanted to leave a legacy or believed in that particular aspect of it. He was eager to push that one.
Right.
But we all know how it ended. Needless to point out that the president was a bit emotional about that whole issue and how it ended. And that was highly unfortunate. And I did not expect that coming from the president, but it did happen. The emotional reactions to what Ghanaians didn't want and how the whole thing was truncated after he had spent time and money campaigning for that referendum to be held. And so, but right after that butchered attempt, the president has not taken any step in helping us lead the way, showing that level of leadership that would ensure that we do the necessary amendment. Because there need a lot of other amendments.
Indeed.
Which, quite a number of it. I cannot even mention, I cannot finish.
Okay, good
but
summary.
The notable ones, if you remember, would include the decoupling of the Attorney General's office. That, for instance, is a huge, in fact, it was almost a consensus. Almost every single Ghanaian agreed that because the Attorney Generals are unable to prosecute ministers and other government officials, the right thing to do to get the country fighting corruption and other things was to decouple it. And so when Nana Addo won the election, I was very excited. I was so happy because I assumed that what Atta Mills had commenced,
Nana Addo would complete. Okay.
He would conclude it.
Your happiness has been cut short then.
In this whole theory of fighting corruption and decoupling the Attorney General's office. And remember, the two are all astute lawyers.
Indeed they are. Indeed.
Now the reason why I take away the era of the Mahama administration is because he wasn't part of this whole campaign for the amendment of the Constitution.
Right.
He was only a vice president, and he may not believe in what his president did or believed in.
Okay. Let me ask this.
So when he came into office and did nothing about it, you could
we couldn't really fault him, of course,
because
right?
Really, that was not his brainchild.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear. Let me ask this though; it should be the final one. Now, a number of Ghanaians are quite upset about a lot of things and want certain things changed. Now, the Fix the Country movement is, for instance, pushing for this amendment. Is there any way we can force the government to implement some of these things? Because the Constitutional Review Committee report is there. There's a lot we need to do about it. It is not being done. What can we do to get the government to implement these things? Is there a way? Is there an article we can invoke?
Unfortunately, I was just reading the Kenyan Court of Appeal decision on a similar proposal that was happening in Kenya just last week. The Kenyan Court of Appeal had thrown out a possible amendment to their constitution.
Right.
Now, why do I bring this in? If you note, the Constitution of Kenya allows almost every single individual the right and the privilege to initiate an amendment to the Constitution. You do not need a president or a vice president or a speaker or anyone for that matter, or a chief justice. All you need to be is just to be a citizen of Kenya. And you have the right to initiate an amendment to their constitution.
Wow.
Here in our jurisdiction, we do not have anything close to that.
I see.
We only have a procedure. So the mechanisms for amending the constitution only provides the means of doing it. It doesn't provide the who initiates it. So the initiator of an amendment is not known within our constitution, which is what actually affected the Tamils administration when they intended doing the amendment, because Professor Isaiah Kogu has now had to go to the Supreme Court challenging the conduct of the president in initiating the amendment. But luckily for us, that the Supreme Court almost gave the then administration a clean bill of health, because really, even though the Constitution doesn't provide who initiates an amendment, it did not also forbid the president from initiating an amendment. And so that became a leeway, sort of, for the whole process to go on. But it had been stalled for well over 2 years before this decision finally came into being. By which time, Prof. Mills was, I think, no more. And so we expected, and of course, soon afterwards we were launched into the election, the morning period, and then the impending election.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
One would have expected that his successor, who was the vice president, would have continued with the process.
Right.
And I kept asking Professor Atuguba, who was then the secretary to the commission and became the secretary to the president, why this process was not happening. And because he had this peculiar position, now having the ears of the president, I was hoping that
he could do something, but not much happened. Okay, that's fine. I just feel a bit sad that what you are suggesting tells all of us that there isn't much we can do about it. We just have to pray and hope that there's a political figure outside.
The point I'm driving home is this.
Okay.
The point I'm driving home is this.
Right.
That once the Fix the Country people are doing will be influential.
Right.
They are gathering more momentum.
Okay.
1 million people saying we should amend the constitution.
Okay.
30 million or plus people.
That's good.
Speaks volume that
That's
you
good.
and I sitting on TV and talking about.
That's good. I like
because
that.
At this moment, no one is interested in
So we need to pile more pressure on government. Council, thank you. Thank you so much.
Because there's no constitutional prescription on any person, particularly the president,
to do anything.
Leading the way into amending the
pressure it is. Justice Abdullah is private legal practitioner and a law lecturer for the University for Professional Studies, Accra. I'm told we have Yabo Abiansamo on the line. I'll take concluding remarks from him, hopefully in about a minute. Council, yes, sir, can we hear you in a minute?
Yes. The constitutional growth is evolutionary. Some societies have it through court decisions over the years, conventions, practices. Some have it through direct changes to the electorate and the West. Some have a mix of both. I think it's all a function of dynamics. Because we got to the Fourth Republic through constitutional change, major constitutional change. Now we want to do constitutional changes through constitutional means, and it's a process. I am happy that at least we are in the process. The president tried to do a referendum on a particular provision. It failed. But there's another one which won, which was a regional referendum. The regional one won, the election of DC, it failed. But I don't even believe there's a consensus yet on the exact provision to be changed. The Constitutional Review Commission came out with over 90 propositions. That's a rewrite of the entire Constitution. Right. And who said that a law alone can solve our social problems? We have social issues that there are current laws that are strong enough to deal with, but we don't enforce.
I see.
The law needs enforcement.
Okay.
And so changing the Constitution by itself will not guarantee,
may not guarantee much.
Economic behavior that is beneficial to the youth. It depends a lot on molding what we have in a direction beneficial to us. Let's stop the difficulties of the current one, not necessarily through amendments, but as it's organically evolving through the courts as well as our actions. Through the courts as well as our actions. The Auditor General's report is replete with actions of Ghanaians. Ghanaians, which is costing us, according to the last report, 2 billion cedis.
Wow.
Or dollars.
That's a lot.
Yes, go look at Auditor General's report. And it's not just about politicians.
Indeed.
It's about all of us.
Yeah.
And this cannot be solved just by the Constitution. Yes,
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, Wabian Samoa is Director of Communications for the Ghanaian New Patriotic Party. You also heard from Justice Abdullahi, private legal practitioner and law lecturer at the University for Professional Studies here in Accra. Also, Dr. Kobe Mensah, lecturer and political marketing expert. My name is Kwabena Chenchehini Boateng. This has been Opposing Views right here on MX24 Television. Stay with us because Tech